For most couples, more intimate conversations happen during the dating phase of their relationship compared to when they cross over into marriage. How come all of a sudden after marriage, we begin to experience gaps in communication? We begin to experience a tough time communicating with this person who we love so much, who is our spouse, right? So what usually, leads to some of these hindrances in communication? Sit tight and let's get into today's discussion. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Zenaida, and I am so excited to be with you once again. I have to say that I am so sorry. I'm so sorry about not being consistent, and I also want to take time to specially thank everyone who reached out to me. Thank you so much. It actually does mean a lot to me, right? That somebody's expecting a video. Somebody wants to watch this. Somebody is getting something from all of this. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll try my best to keep it more consistent here, by God's special grace. Right. So welcome back once more. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming here to watch. Please click on the subscribe button. Click it now. It is free. Don't be a ghost, okay? Click on the subscribe button. Like the video, share it if it helped you in even a very little way, right? And I really, really appreciate that. I'll be very glad and delighted. So thank you once more. So let's get into today's discussion. Today we're talking about communication in the marriage context. Okay, we're talking about communication, and communication is not a new gist, right? It's not something new. We all know how important communication is in marriage, in any relationship. By the way, communication is actually the driving force of any relationship, right? Communication is a big deal, and this is why it's advised that you marry someone with shared interests, because if you marry someone where or who has completely opposite interests with you, on every single aspect of life, it's going to be a challenge, building communication in that marriage. Okay, so let's look at, some of the hindrances that I think a lot of couples face, when it has to do with effective communication. What are some of the hindrances that, many couples face in their marriages when it has to do with communication? Why does it feel like, communicating during the single phase or during the dating phase, is usually better, going better compared to when we cross over into marriage? So the first thing that I would like to say, the first hindrance, the first challenge usually is over familiarity. Over familiarity. This is a very, very, easy one to slip into when you get married, right? Because now in marriage, that urgency is no longer there. You feel like, this person is always here. I always have this person, right? So that urgency drops, okay? So you start to become over familiar with this person. They call it, in Nigeria, we say, see finish. You start to see this person finish. The honor that you gave to this person when you were dating, now you've seen the person finish. We just feel like we know our partner, we know everything about them. We've said it when we're dating, that I know. We forget that human beings evolve, okay? So because you just have that feeling that I know this person, is it not my wife, is it not my husband? That's also over familiarity in a way, right? You just feel, I know this person, is it not my wife, I know them, so you just feel like you know them, you have them, they've got you, you've got them. And at the end of the day, there are gaps already coming into your relationship. Let me give an example. How when you're dating, you just want to call anything that happens, let's say at work or in the office, you just want to call your boyfriend or your fiance or your fiance and just share that moment with them. Okay, so it can be something very random, it can be something very funny, it can be something serious, like a big deal, right? So let's assume that it's something that something serious happened at the office. Now you're married. Before, of course, immediately, even something very random, you just saw a white cat and with black stripes passing you. babe, I just saw a white cat. People will laugh and everything. But now you're married, 2 years in marriage, and then something happens in the office, something serious. Maybe it even involved you, and you didn't, of course, you didn't call your husband or your wife to tell them about it. When it happened, you're like, when I get home, I'll tell them. They are there. When you get home, you tell them. And then you get to the house and you forget. You genuinely forget, right? Sometimes that happens. You can actually genuinely forget. Sometimes you just feel it's not really important. There's no need to share it with this person, with him or with her. Maybe because of you assume that they're going to respond in a certain way. Okay, so that can also happen, right? But you just forget. Let's just say that you forgot. Okay, and then let's say 1 month later, you hang out, or you're hanging out with your spouse, maybe at work or something, and this issue comes up, and then your partner is like, this happened, you didn't tell me, right? And then you're like, sorry, buddy, I forgot, and this, and that happens once, it happens twice, it happens 3 times, it happens 4 times, 5 times. You're always forgetting. How do you feel your partner is going to start feeling? They'll start feeling like they no longer count, they no longer matter, right? They start withdrawing as well, okay? Because they just feel like, okay, this person is no longer sharing, some of these details of their lives with me anymore, okay? And this is in marriage, and before you know it, there's a breach coming in. Before you know it, there's withdrawal. Before you know it, this person is holding back, this person is holding back, and before you know it, both of you are married, but you are not even, you're lonely. You're no longer excited to share, anything anymore with your partner. And this is a very dangerous place to be in, right? Because we human beings, we enjoy to, share, to talk. And if you're not doing that with your partner, your husband, your wife, you'll be doing that with someone else, right? You want to talk to maybe your friend, your guy friend, or even your female friend of the opposite sex, or your male friend, and all of that. And before you know it, problem is coming into the marriage. Okay, so we must guard our communication very seriously. We must guard it diligently. Okay, we must ensure that we are keeping the communication level, we are keeping it better. We must ensure that it's growing, because it can grow. So never get familiar with your spouse. Give them that respect, give them that honor, show them that you love them, that you respect them by sharing, important information, important things with them. Okay, never get too familiar. Don't procrastinate, don't push it away. That shows that you're actually becoming familiar with your spouse. Okay, and we should. It's a very easy thing to slip into. Trust me, in marriage, very easy thing to slip into, and we need to consciously ensure that we are not slipping into over familiarity in marriage. Okay, the second thing that leads to bridges, that hinders communication, is poor listening skill. A lot of people feel like listening is something that it's just something that we think that listening is a natural thing, like it's normal. We don't see the need to develop listening skill, and this is actually wrong, because listening is actually a skill that has to be developed. Because what happens in a normal conversation, especially heated conversations or conversations where the other party is on the opposite side of the conversation, okay, opposite side of the opinion or opposite side of your thoughts, your perspective, is you become defensive. All right, and in that state of defensiveness, usually you are just hearing the person to answer back with your own defense. You're not hearing, or you're not listening, really listening to them, to hear them out, to hear what they're actually saying. Okay, and this is a very dicey one. We have to be careful. We have to ensure that when we're having conversations, because this is what builds better trust, your ability to really hear your partner, and to they just feel that safety whenever they communicate or they converse with you. All right, and if every time you're always you're not listening to them, you're just coming up with your own, and that you're not hearing this. That is not what I said. Sometimes we have some of those kind of discussions in marriage. I didn't say that. Like, how did you? That isn't what I said. This is what I said, and you just realize that this person was actually not listening. Right? It's just like a teacher in a class. You come to a class, you teach and teach and talk for hours. What you are saying, sometimes you ask for feedback a lot of times. What the person is hearing can be completely different from what you actually said. So communication is two-way. It's not just talking, it's also listening. Right? And a lot of people actually do not know how to listen. A lot of people talk, more than they listen. Even the Bible says, once has he spoken, twice have I heard. That's the importance of listening. And that is something we must develop. Okay? So you have to learn to listen to them, even when they are saying something that you don't like, even when they're saying something that is different from what you think. In that particular time, you have to ensure that you still listen to them, you take what you can, okay, and then you also exchange your own thoughts in a respectful way, okay, because sometimes you see some couples, some spouses, they tend to become rude, or they tend to downplay the thoughts of their partner because it is opposite or is different from what they're thinking, and that's not right. Okay, you have to respectfully tell them that, okay, this is what you think, and I hear you, I understand what you're saying, but look at it this way. This is what I feel. This is why I think. Explain your own thoughts better to them. This is why I think it will be better. And sometimes, interestingly, when you later after that discussion, when you look back, you always realize that this is what we're even dragging about. So many distractions: phone, movie, Netflix, TV, work, even work, especially in this day and age of remote working, where you are always working, you're on your laptop, you're always working, it could even be the children, right? But something is just distracting you, and your partner is screaming for your attention, right? But you're not listening to them, you're not paying attention. So you have to learn to focus, to shut out distractions and focus on your spouse, your partner. That is also a way that you show them that you respect them, okay? Because if somebody important was talking to you, you won't be just doing whatever you were doing. You will actually pay attention and listen to what they're saying to you, right? So it's a way of showing respect to your partner, your husband or your wife, your spouse. Okay, so you have to ensure that you are focused. Whenever you're having discussions, whenever they're telling you something, you have to ensure that you're focused, you're listening, you're not pressing your phone and saying, okay, every time. The person will be angry, and the person may even become resentful. The person may withdraw. The person may not want to, talk to you again about anything, because they know that that's what you always do. Okay, so you have to work on that. You have to ensure that you're focusing when your partner is talking to you. Okay, some people it's not for some people it's children. You're always busy. Your person telling you something. Okay, or it's something you're just doing something that is taking your attention, from what your partner is actually trying to say to you. So learn to focus and learn to listen, not to respond, but to really listen, to really hear, okay, what they're trying to say to you. Third challenge is usually assumptions. I think this one is also very important. Assumptions. We assume a lot. We just feel like we know why this person is behaving in this particular way. We know them finish. We just assume, Let me share two scenarios, okay? Two that I can. Let me just share these two. Okay. So I remember back then when I just got married, right? And personally, I like to explore different foods. Okay, I like to explore. I get tired of eating one thing, over and over again. So like I would cook soups, and this week, let's say this week I make edikai kong, I make egusi soup. Next week I want to make okra, with oha soup. Upper week I want to make bitter leaf. I just want to mix, because I get tired. How can I be eating it? But my husband, he loves afang soup. Ever since he tasted afang soup, that he has been stuck, with that soup. He loves the soup so much, right? So, and that first day, second, he'll be like, babe, I like afang soup. He doesn't mind to eat this soup every day of that, like every time we have to eat swallow. He doesn't mind eating the swallow every time with afang soup. Okay, no matter how sweet. If my husband eats afang soup today and tomorrow he sees ogbono, okra, and egusi or whatever soup it is, he'll still choose afang soup. That's how much he actually loves, afang soup. And initially I was like, how can you I just assumed that no, it's because of my own behavior, because of the way that my own character. Like, I like to explore different foods, different soups, and I felt like that's boring, right? And him is like, no, I like this afang. So I just assumed that it's not that serious, it's not that deep. And I realized that the thing now started to become a problem, because you're like, I want afang soup, and I'll feel like, is it that the egusi soup that I'm cooking or the ogbono soup I'm making is not nice, right? Is it that it's not nice? Like, no, he still wants that afang soup. Do you understand? So I had to learn that, okay, it's not about the soups that I'm cooking, because the soups were nice. That's the truth, okay? And I had to tell myself that it's not because your soups are not nice, okay? He just likes afang, so that is what he likes. Give it to him. So stop assuming that he's like you in this area. He's not, okay? So I had to learn that. So I had to drop that assumption, and I had to understand him, okay? He communicated what he likes, with me, but I was refusing to accept it. Okay, so I wasn't listening to him. I was just assuming that, okay, I was projecting my own, my own way on him, right? So I had to drop the assumption that, okay, it's not possible that somebody can just be eating one soup, like one soup like this. It's not as if you give him the bone, he will not eat. He will eat it too. Do you understand? He will even tell you thank you so much, but he will still let you know that the next time, is it afang soup? He will always ask that, is it afang? So he really liked afang soup. So I had to learn it. Okay, so that was one example, right? The second example is okay, I remember one day, not one time, not once upon a time, once upon a day, I just woke up and my husband was just moody, and I was like, why is he moody? And I was just talking to myself, why is he moody? What's happening? Did we fight? Did we quarrel? Nothing happened. We're good as far as I was concerned. The previous time, we're good to go talking, everything was okay, normal. But that morning, it was just, I said, let's see, maybe, I just assumed, I made up reasons, why he was moody. Okay, so I just made up reasons in my head, and I was like, okay, this is probably why he's like this. Probably when he comes back, he'll be better, in a better mood and all of that. And he went to work, came back home, and he was still, moody. And that it's not just my husband. My husband is always happy, full of energy, full of gist, But so whenever he's moody, it's not hard for you to spot that, okay, something is wrong. But I still kept, putting it on different reasons. Okay, is that, maybe, because I knew at that time, different things were going on here and there, here, there. So I just thought, maybe it's this reason, And honestly, if I had not probed, if I had not asked, inquired, honestly, the reason why he was actually moody at that time, I would have never guessed. Trust me, I would have never guessed. So I had to inquire in the evening. I just, what's wrong? What's happening? And he was like, his love tank he's low on his love tank. Yeah, I didn't even say he's low on his love tank. And I was like, I don't understand. You're low on your love tank. What do you mean by you're low on your love tank? Like, yesterday we were good, we were gisting, we were happy, everything was, So what do you mean by you're low on your love tank? I don't used to hold him again. I don't hold him outside. I don't hold him. I said, where is this one coming from? I don't hold you. Hey. And, my husband's love language is touch. Top one. I think a lot of men, number one love language is usually touch. My husband really, really likes, touch, physical touch. Touch me, hold me, just touch me, touch my head, rub my leg, when I'm sleeping, hold me, But me, I can do, so I was like, so are you trying to say that, hey, I don't used to touch you? Are you trying to say that I don't used to touch you enough? And honestly, if I had not inquired, I would never have, realized that was actually a need for him. Okay, and probably it would have just gone. Maybe something will come up, he'll get better. We won't talk about it, and maybe later, because it's still there and he still has that need, and he has not communicated that need to me, and I'm not even aware that, okay, this is a serious, he really likes this, and it can lead to other things in the future, right? And it will eventually have to be treated. Okay, so my point is, you have to learn not to assume. If I had just assumed that, it would have just gone, we would have just swept it under the carpet. So you have to ensure that you're not making assumptions, because they're your partner, them, it will be fine. You just make up whatever reason. No. And interestingly, you would think that assumptions are usually for outsiders. Like you assume, see that lady, she's coming up from that car. You just assume, okay, it's a boyfriend or it's a sugar daddy. You can't think that it's the uncle. You just make assumptions because they're strangers, right? But it's so funny how marriages, couples that live together, we make assumptions every single day. We make assumptions why our spouse is behaving in a certain way. We just make it, and instead of us to do the one thing that we need to do, which is to inquire, to ask, we don't do that. We do everything else but to inquire. And for some couples, right, it's you might need to probe a little bit more, right? Like in my case, for some people, the woman or the man, if it was the man, you may need to probe more depending on who your spouse is, right? And depending on the level of vulnerability you already have in that marriage. Okay, for us, our marriage is, we're very vulnerable. We're open, to one another. It's already there. So it's not very difficult for my husband to now say, oh, this is why my love tank is low. Some men may have difficulty in expressing that need, right? Some men may have that difficulty, and that may be because there's that vulnerability, it's not really going on in there, right, already. But my husband trusts me with this feeling, he trusts me with this need, and he knows that, okay, I can tell her this, she'll be able to handle this and all of that, and vice versa. Okay, so you need to ensure that you're not making assumptions. You need to ensure that you're really communicating needs, you're communicating, difficulties, you're communicating your joys, everything, with one another. It will really help you in your marriage. The last one that I'll talk about today, I think I've been talking for too long. The last problem, last challenge that I feel, I always want to avoid confrontations or disagreements. You want to avoid confrontations and disagreements every time. It doesn't help communication. Sometimes we feel like when you avoid this confrontation or you don't say this thing, it's going to help your relationship, because no, it doesn't, honestly. What it actually does is it brings in more withdrawal. You start to see that the couple are withdrawing from one another. Okay, so you need to ensure that you're not avoiding confrontation. I used to laugh when people say, my husband cannot tell me that there's too much after I've suffered in the kitchen. Now come and tell me that the food is salty. See, it's not like I'm endorsing rudeness or somebody your partner not being able to, your partner being rude to you, but there's a way to say things, right? Yes, but that doesn't mean that your spouse should be your number one critic. They should be the ones that can tell you the honest truth every time. Okay, they should. And sometimes in a marriage, like for me, my husband matured very early. Like he was a very mature person he had very good emotional intelligence, social intelligence. He was very mature. Okay. And I learned a lot of things from him. Okay. And sometimes when you are the party that is always on the learning end, sometimes you can become a little bit angry. I don't even know what I mean. But if your partner is the more mature one, right, when you get married, sometimes the person on the other end, might start feeling like, what does this person even feel he is, or who does she even think she is, always wanting to correct. And honestly, it's not because that person is always wanting to correct. It's just because it is what it is. Okay, they've passed that phase that you're at, and it will pay you more if you actually calm down to learn. Okay, so you must always be open to learn, and avoiding confrontation is not the way to go. Okay, and also the way you correct somebody, your partner, is also very important. So that salt example, for example, the food is salty. Me self, you cannot shame the shameless. You get, so when I taste, you have tongue now to taste the flesh. So I'll just, before he even says it, I've already told him, babe, this food is salty. I'm sorry. You never apologized, and I've told him sorry, and I've already said everything. So there's nothing he will even say to me that will make me angry. Some of us are oversensitive. We're too sensitive. Let's say the truth, right? We don't want correction, we don't want, we don't want to learn. That's why you see some people, they are married for 10, 15 years, but they're not learning anything about their spouses. The same problem every day. Even marriage counselor is tired. You get, because you're not learning. You're married 10, 15 years, the same issue, the same problem, the same arguments, the same, like, you know what you're doing? You're creating a very toxic environment in your family, and the children are actually picking that. Okay, and that's not what you want, right? The essence actually for communication is so that you can learn. You can learn more about this person, right? Why do we communicate with God? So that we can learn more about His way, we can grow in Him, right? And that's the essence of communication, right? Growth is supposed to come out of communication. You're supposed to learn, okay? You're supposed to learn. So you're expected to learn more about your partner and vice versa, right? In the marriage, okay? So it's not just to be talking, and you're learning is supposed to be happening in there, all right? So I just want to encourage, this is something that we must take seriously to have healthier marriages and healthier relationships. Okay, so I'm going to stop here for today. Next week we're going to explore more about disagreements and handling conflicts, handling tough conversations in marriage. Okay, how do we navigate these things? Is the solution to withdraw, right? And all of that, we'll talk more about that when we meet in the next conversation. If you have any question, have anything you like for me to share more on, please drop that in the comment section. Drop your comments in the comment section for me so that I can read them. Thank you very much for watching till the end. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe, hit the like button, share this video. Thank you so much for listening. See you in the next video. Bye.